So Team Rockets has been out for quite a while now, and it's just never been good. It never actually had that much potential to be good. There was never a format where people thought, wow, this deck's going to be good. Unfortunately, it just has never been good. The most success it's had is toward taking it to a Champions League and saying it's not good. That is the most good it has been. So when I tell you that it's actually going to be really good moving forward, there's a good chance you won't believe me. And that's fair. You know, it hasn't been a good deck. It's never proved itself to be a good deck. And it's just sometimes a deck that Pokemon pushes just isn't going to be good. For example, we take Rayquaza VMAX, right? That was a deck that people thought was going to be good, but it flopped. For example, also Zekrom and Reshiram. People thought that was going to be decent, and it flopped, right? It's just some decks flop, and that's fine. You know, not every deck is Gardevoir EX, not every deck is Dragapult EX. And today, you know, luckily for you guys, I'm not talking about Dragapult again, because I always talk about Dragapult, and that's fair, because Dragapult is the GOAT and the greatest to ever do it, right? But today, what we are going to be talking about is instead Team Rockets. And I don't want to say Team Rockets Mewtwo, because Team Rockets Mewtwo is the way the deck has been played in the past, and I think, honestly, that is the wrong way to go about it. I think if we keep looking at Team Rockets Mewtwo, I think we will keep being disappointed. But the thing that makes Team Rocket so damn good is the engine. For example, Team Rocket's Ariana, draw until you have 8 cards, is an insane card, right? Drawing until you have 8 cards has been great. For example, we saw Lily, old Lily, be really good, draw until you have 8 cards, right? Very great card. We see Lily right now in the format. If you have 6 prize cards, you draw until, you shuffle and draw 8. It's a great card. 8 is a great number to draw. But what if we up that number to 10, right? For example, Team Rocket's Stadium, the factory, it lets you draw 2 more cards if you play the supporter that turn. So if you play Ariana, if you only have Team Rocket's Pokemon play, you draw until 8. And if you find the Stadium, you can put that down, draw 2 more, but that's not the only supporter that is good. Let's take a look at Giovanni's Charisma or whatever it's called. It's literally Guzma. You swap your Pokemon and your opponent swaps their Pokemon, and then you also get to draw 2 cards, right? And then there's the card that lets you set up in the beginning of the game. I think it's the Proton or something like that. It searches your deck for 3 Team Rocket's Pokemon, the basic Pokemon. And then you also get to draw 2 cards with the Stadium. And then the last one would be the Archer, right? Archer is a really good card, and in my opinion, one of, if not the best cards in the deck post-rotation. And why is that so good post-rotation? Because this deck is the only deck in the game that has any form of hand disruption. Hand disruption is something that we are losing in the format. Iono is gone, right? And that is basically the only great hand disruption in the format. We do have Judge, but it's just not as good. And then we have Harlequin and Lucian, which is just shite. And I don't want people to be like, but actually Jake Gearhart said that Harlequin is the optimal. I don't care. I'm sorry. Love Jake Gearhart. He's smart and all that. Don't care, right? I think that the Archer is really good because it's once your opponent takes a knockout, you shuffle your hand in your deck, you draw 5 or 6, and your opponent draws 3, which is great. It's basically an unfair stamp as a supporter. It's basically, what's that thing's name? Roxanne, right? It's really, really good, and it's not like you can only use it once your opponent is 3 cards or less like Roxanne was. 3 prize cards or less like Roxanne was. You can use it whenever your opponent takes a knockout, and if you're playing a deck like we're going to be taking a look at today, then it's going to be really good because your opponent is going to be taking lots and lots of knockouts. So why will you have lots of opportunities to use Team Rocket's Archer? Because your deck is consistent of only 1 prize. This is one of the decks we're going to be taking a look at today. We're going to be taking a look at another more conventional one in a sec. So this recently won a City League over in Japan. City Leagues are basically just big league cups over in Japan that are for championship points as well. And this is a pretty cool deck. So you have your Murkrow and your Honchkrow. If you don't know what Honchkrow does 60 damage. Discard any amount of supporter cards that have Team Rockets in the name from your hand, and it does 60 damage for each card you discard in this way. So pretty good, right? You are playing a lot of Team Rockets supporters. You're playing 20 actually, which is pretty cool. So let's say you discard 5 of them, 5 times 6, you're doing 300 damage, right? 300 damage, not a bad number to hit. Let's say you discard 1 more, it's 6 times 6. Now you're doing 360 damage, one-shotting basically everything in the format, right? 7 does one-shot everything in the format. 6 basically one-shots everything in the format. So a very nice number to hit. There's one card in this deck that is unfortunately rotating, and that is the Palpad. Palpad is not going to be legal in post-rotation, but right now this is probably a really good way to play it. Post-rotation, obviously, you're going to have to cut the Palpad and probably play something else. Everything else in this deck doesn't rotate. That's something else that is really good about the Team Rockets. Everything about their deck, it doesn't rotate, right? The thing is, basically the entirety of the deck came out in one set, Destined Rivals, so it's all going to be legal. Like, every single card over here, all of the supporters, all of the Pokemon, this is all legal, right? This is all what's it, Team Rocket stuff. The only, like, non-Team Rocket stuff in this deck is the A-Spec, the Pokepad, Sacred Ash, Night Stretcher, and Ignition Energy, right? Ignore Palpad, that doesn't really exist right now. So, what would I cut for the Palpad going into the next format? No clue, to be honest. Probably some form of consistency card, maybe like a Pokegear or something, or maybe any form more of like recovery. But I think this deck is pretty good the way it is. So the idea is you have Team Rocket's Proton in the beginning of the game with Team Rocket's Transceiver to actually set up your Team Rocket's Pokemon, and then you'll use your Team Rocket's Honchkrow to discard a bunch of these like supporters and stuff to do a bunch of damage, and then at the end of the game you'll use Team Rocket's Porygon Z, which does 20 damage for each Team Rocket's supporter in the discard pile. If you have all 20 of them in the discard pile, you're doing 400 damage, right? Obviously, you don't, let's say you have 15, which is much more likely, then you're doing 300 damage, which is still really good for a singular energy attachment, right? And a one prizer. So I think this deck is going to be really good. However, it does have a clear problem, and I'll give you 3 seconds to try and spot that problem. What is a matchup that this deck is probably going to struggle with? If you said Dragapult, you'd be correct. Dragapult is obviously going to be a horrible matchup for this deck. Dragapult can just kind of, pop Dusknoir into something, Phantom Dive, knock out both your guys, and Team Rocket's Mimikyu is going to help, but unfortunately it's probably just not going to be enough. So let's take a look at a deck that has a much better Dragapult matchup, but still not one that is perfect. So this is a more like regular kind of looking Team Rockets deck. However, I think that this deck is also just very reliant on the one prizes. As you can see, there's only a single Team Rocket's Mewtwo, because Team Rocket's Mewtwo just isn't really that good. It's just not a great card, right? Energy Erasure Ball is a fine attack. It maxes out at 280, which isn't a bad number to hit by any means, but it's just not a great number to hit, to be honest. However, it does have a decent chunk of HP. 280, is a decent amount of HP, right? Not many things in the format just deal with 280 HP. So Dragapult can struggle against Team Rocket's Mewtwo, and it is also only a 2-prizer. This thing has more HP than some basic Mega Pokemon, right? Mega Absol has less HP than Team Rocket's Mewtwo, and it is worth a full prize cards more, right? This is only worth 2 prize cards. Absol's worth 3. So it's definitely a tanky little guy, which is pretty cool. Or tanky big guy. I don't really know if I want to call him little, because he's not really little. But yeah, and then we have things like the Team Rocket's Articuno, which prevents damage counts from being placed on your basic Pokemon, which is quite nice because the only evolution Pokemon in this deck is the Spidops, and Spidops isn't really going to be targeted by Dragapult Phantom Dive damage counters. He's going to be more so targeted by Dusknoir, because 130 HP Dusknoir popping that guy, gonna be definitely a story that's going to happen a lot post-rotation. As you can see, this deck is not built post-rotation. It does have the Earthen Vessel, but you can just cut the Earthen Vessel and put in Energy Search if you really wanted to. Honestly, I would probably add in a second Team Rocket's Archer. Archer is just, like we said, a broken card post-rotation because of being able to disrupt your opponent. And yeah, Team Rocket's Archer, like I said, you can use the card only if one of your Team Rocket's Pokemon are knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles their hand in the deck, you draw 5, your opponent draws 3. So this is something that is going to be really strong post-rotation, because you get to draw cards, and your opponent does not get to draw many cards. So this is a lot more reliant on the one prizes. As you can see, we are playing the Brave Bangle post-rotation. Brave Bangle is going to be really good as well. Team Rocket Spidops is just a great card to be attacking with, because if you have it is obviously, this attack does for 30 damage for each of your Team Rocket's Pokemon in play. So it is 3 times 6, so that you're hitting 80, now 180 damage. With the Brave Bangle, you're hitting 210, which isn't that bad. 210 is not a bad number to hit on a one prizer, which is pretty cool, right? And that's just not a bad thing. This deck farms Zoroark, and Zoroark's going to be a really good deck post-rotation. And then for those things that you need to hit a little bit harder, then you're probably going to be swinging with the Team Rocket's Mewtwo. And it's really easy to chain the Mewtwo's, because all you realistically have to do is get the Mewtwo, have a few like Spidops set up. You can attach your Team Rocket's energy, E-switch your energy from Team Rocket Spidops onto your Mewtwo, and then you start swinging. Another thing is that a lot of decks don't really respect one prizes post-rotation, right? There's just not a lot of respect towards like these kinds of guys. So a lot of, like, also Mimikyu is rotating, right? Crystle's still going to be in format, but it's losing a lot, so it's not actually going to be nearly as good. So a lot of decks just aren't going to be able to, you know, get through something like Neutralization Zone. And if you play that down at the correct time, that can win you every single matchup, including the Dragapult matchup. Dragapult is going to want to get rid of stuff like Battle Cage, right? So it's going to put down a stadium, and then it's probably going to want to get rid of your Team Rocket's Watchtower, right? Because when they judge you, they don't want you to be able to Team Rocket's Ariana and then Team Rocket's Factory as well and just draw a bunch of cards. So another thing is with Team Rocket's Factory, it just makes your Team Rocket's Archers so much more potent, because then essentially you're drawing 7 compared to your opponent's 3. So Team Rocket's Factory is definitely something your opponent is going to want to bump. There's no deck other than the Mirror Match which is going to want to let you keep drawing 2 extra cards every time you play any of your supporters. So they're going to be bumping your stadiums. And post-rotation decks are going to be playing probably around like 2 stadiums, right? So if you can just force them to bump out these, even if you're on 6 prize cards, your opponent's on 1 prize card, if you just slap down the Neutralization Zone at the correct time and start swinging with the Spidops and stuff, you can very easily win the game, right? You can just start spreading damage and stuff, and then you can just go Team Rocket Sneasel, which, if you guys don't know what it does, because I haven't really shown it just yet, it does 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, benched Pokemon, for each damage counter on that Pokemon. So basically, it just doubles that Pokemon's damage. So if it has 100 damage on it already, it's going to be swinging for 200 damage, meaning that Pokemon now has 300 damage placed on it. So it's pretty good, right? It just doubles the damage on the Pokemon already, and it's not that bad. Another reason this deck is just so good is because it's consistency, right? Like, for example, let's go back to the first deck over here. Like, this deck is just built for consistency. 4 Pokepads to get your Pokemon, 4 Team Rocket's Proton to get your, like, you know, Pokemon, 4 Team Rocket's Petrol to get, like, I guess Petrol's a little bit worse in this specific deck, but it's nice because I guess it can still get you your Pokepad. I wouldn't mind maybe a cut the Palpad for or one of Buddy Poffin, so Poffin can get you like your double Team Rocket's Porygon or something. Unfortunately, the Murkrow is 80 HP, which does kind of suck, but yeah. And then you just have Team Rocket's Ariana, which, like I said, is just so good. Team Rocket's Archer, another draw supporter. You're essentially playing 8 draw supporters over here with 4 setup supporters, 4 Gusts, 4 Team Rocket Transceivers, which can search your deck for any of these. So essentially, now think of it, you're playing 8 Arianas, right? 8 Archers, 8 Giovanni, 8 Petrols, and 8 Protons, right? Because of these Team Rocket's Transceivers. So the odds are, I guess you're not really playing 8 of them, it just means that, like, you can find them as if you were playing 8, because it becomes a card, like a trump card. It just is any of them whenever you need them, which is pretty cool. And then obviously then you've got your Miracle Headset, which can just get them back into your hand at the later stage of the game, because obviously with this deck you're going to be wanting to discard them, right? With the Honchkrow you need to discard them, right? Honchkrow is essentially just a Raging Bolt clone with only the supporters, but since it's a 1-prizer, you don't have to, like, you know, chain it so like every single turn like a Raging Bolt, because you can also pivot into like the Porygon Z or also just the Porygon 2, right? Porygon 2 is also pretty decent. And then there is also the little Porygon, which has a kind of like funny little attack. Just discard a card from your hand, and then your opponent discards a card from their hand. But yeah, and then honestly, the Murkrow has a really cool attack, Torment. Choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks during your opponent's next turn. That Pokemon can't use that attack. For example, if you pick your opponent's Dragapult's Phantom Dive, if they don't have a second Phantom Dive or are not able to pivot into like the Pokemon, they can't Phantom Dive. They're gonna have to Jet Headbutt and whiff by 10, right? And then Deceit is also just not a bad attack. It is just a like anti-brick attack. Search your deck for a supporter card, reveal, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck, right? You can just get yourself a Team Rocket's Ariana. So there's not many ways that this deck bricks. This deck is very, very consistent, right? All of these supporters are really helpful, right? I guess in the beginning of the game, maybe Team Rocket's Giovanni is not as helpful. I'd say Team Rocket's Archer is still helpful, because once your opponent takes a knockout, you just get to play the game, right? And like I said, it's a 1-prizer deck, so you have good comeback potential. And then you have Team Rocket's Stadiums, so even if you do have Giovanni, you can probably Team Rocket's Factory for some stuff. And then you have 8 Energy, and since all of your Pokemon only really attack for Color Synergy, right? 2 Color Synergy, 3 colors energy. So this is the only one that really needs the ignition energy. The ignition energy still works on all the other ones. It's just basically attached for turn attack, attached for turn attack, right? We do have another attack here, which is hammer in 100 damage. I mean, it might be okay, like if you already have a Team Rocket's energy attached to it, and then you slap down like a ignition energy and then do 200 damage to like something that's weak to dark and knock it out. But usually you're just not going to be using that attack, right? In fact, usually you're just not going to be using the Honchkrow. You're probably going to use the Honchkrow twice in a game. I feel like this is an attack that you use twice per game, and then after you like attack twice per game with this, you get all of your supporters into the bin, then you pivot into your Porygon Z and Porygon 2. Porygon Z actually has a little draw support engine built in. Reconstitute, discard 2 cards from your hand, and then draw a card, which is not bad, right? Especially when its damage scales with supporters in the bin, right? And the nice thing is that, like, for example, you can use the Miracle Headset to get your Giovanni out of the bin, and then use the Giovanni and put it back into the bin, right? So you're essentially just getting a free boss off of this and still doing the same amount of damage. So yeah, Team Rocket's pretty damn good, I'm not gonna lie. I think it definitely does have really good potential in the next set. I would probably build something a little bit more like this, because it still has a really good... This one has like a little bit more of a Lost Box feel, because it is a one-prizer version of the deck, and it can hit pretty hard, right? But yeah, that's about it. Peace.